CLP training version 2.0. No, it's the CLP version 2.0 training. Why? Because we're training everyone to use the current material or the new material, the version 2.0 of the Christian Life program that we'll be having. So what are the objectives of what we're doing this day? Allow me to say two objectives. First one, it's to present and the updated version of the CFC Christian Life program and to discuss other pastoral talks and skills training related to this training. So again, these are the two things that we'll be discussing in the span of 3 days. So everything that you'll hear, it is in line with these two objectives. Allow me now to discuss who are the attendees, who should be attending this training. More than the fact that you're a select few and you're privileged to attend this, the trainees that were chosen to attend are the following. Please note that you as the trainees will cascade all the modules to your respective areas. There's a profile that was pre-selected for those who will be attending. What are the profiles? Number one, the trainee, the attendee should at least be a CFC chapter head, current chapter head, or former chapter head. Second, has very good oral communication skills, meaning they can discuss this, they can talk about this freely, they can elaborate the things that we'll be discussing. And third, well adapted to conduct training using online platforms and other presentation applications, which we will discover a little bit later. And there are only 20 trainees per CFC area per weekend. So right now, we are still awaiting at least 12 of our brothers or sisters to attend this training this evening. So, this is the CLP. Again, this is the CLP version 2.0. You'll be seeing the changes, not necessarily in the content, but definitely a new spirit behind this training. So, this training is divided into 3 phases. There are 3 phases for this training. Each phase, except for the third, is divided to 3 days with a total of 6-hour talks and workshop combined. This is currently the first phase. So you're currently in the first phase of your training, and in the coming months, there will be other 2 phases that you need to attend to. It's expected that the trainers sent by the mission areas are the same or will be the same individuals who will attend the entire CLP package. Meaning once you've signed up for this one, you are expected to see it through until the very end, until the end of the third phase of the training, which will happen sometime within the year or probably next year, depending on the time frame. So just some reminders for the online etiquette, and some online reminders. First, we ask you and we remind all of you, be online at the designated time of the training. In the Philippines, we're starting the training at 9 o'clock in the evening, which, if my calculations are correct, for those in the area of Switzerland or the majority of the areas in Europe, it's around 3 in the afternoon. For Israel, for the Middle East, I think, and for Africa, well, for Israel area, probably it's around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Am I correct? For Greece, it's 4. I'm quite sure it's 4 o'clock. So I hope and I pray that in the coming days, you will be online at that time. Second, there are 2 significant items with regards to the number 15. First, the opening worship will start 15 minutes before the scheduled time. So 15 minutes before, except for today, because this is a very lengthy schedule, so we started a bit early. But in the coming days, there will only be 15 minutes before the scheduled time. Second, relevance of 15. Each participant will be given a 15-minute grace period every day. What does this mean? By the time that you will not be allowed entry in the training 15 minutes after the end of the worship. So that's it. So some more points. Number 1, focus. As much as possible, keep your camera on. As you can see, our brothers and sisters, the service team don't have their cameras on. This is not this is by design actually. we want to make sure that the speaker or the moderator will see all of you in one frame. There's that Zoom actually does this thing that when you turn off your camera, it will be moved to the towards the end. So basically, the moderator or the speaker will only see those people who have their cameras turned on. And we know that in one page, in one window of Zoom, there will only be 25 screens that will be shown. Second reminder to focus. Always, since your cameras will be on at all times, always be mindful of your actions while undergoing the training. Third, keep your audio muted unless you are asked to speak, like in the beginning or towards the end. Another one, avoid using other apps while undergoing the training. Why? Because it might take the bandwidth and it might cause some delays in the training. So for this 3 days, the phase one, we'll have 3 items to discuss. First, for today, it's the CLP training. Tomorrow will be a new material teaching on charismatic gifts. And lastly, on the third day, the CLP team leaders training. For this day, for the CLP training, there will be one pastoral talk, one technical talk subdivided to 3 parts, and one workshop. And just some reminders. Certificate of completion will only be given to trainers who successfully finish each phase of the training. So after finishing phase 1, you'll be given a certificate of completion. Second, trainers who miss a training day, will have to wait for a new schedule announced by the secretariat team. So my dear brothers and sisters, please make sure that you attend and actively participate on the coming days. Again, as I remind you, please remind our brothers and sisters who should be part of this training to join, if you know them, if you are aware or who are they. But at this point, my dear brothers and sisters, allow me to, as we continue our evening, we'll be going to the first part of our training, the Talk1, which is basically an overview of the entire thing, principles, and what the spiritual warfare. And to give us the Talk1 for the CLP training, let's welcome our brother Ruel Aguirre.
Hello, brothers and sisters. Good evening. I'm just fixing the PowerPoint. There you go. Right. Okay, again, good evening, everyone. I'm Ruel Aguirre. I'm a full-time pastoral worker of Couples for Christ, serving at the Global Mission Center. It's truly a privilege for us to be with you this very afternoon in your place. Okay, just to start off with, please give me some time to explain to you the principles that we have used in this updated Christian Life program, which we call CLP version 2.0. All right, there. I'll be showing some pictures in my slide. Please, if you can relate with the pictures, if you have seen yourself using, or perhaps you thought of using these things, can you please do a sign up like this, a thumbs up like this when you see the picture I'll be presenting in a while. Okay, first picture. Have you ever seen yourself wearing those kind of attire, especially the one in black and white? That was taken in the 1970s, I assume. Okay, I was still unborn yet, okay, during the time, but I think during your lifetime, you once sported that kind of attire. Okay, the tight long sleeves and very loose pants, okay, especially at the bottom part. But in the 2020s, this is already the kind of fashion, and I assume you are not fashioning this kind of attire. Perhaps your children or your in-laws or your grandchildren are already wearing or sporting this this kind of clothes. All right. Next, means of communication. Were you able to use that kind of telephone, of mobile phone? It looks like an eye shaver for halo-halo. Okay, that was once phone used in the early 2000s, I assume. Okay, but nowadays, as you can see on the right side, okay, these are the lighter ones, the smaller ones, and it can do a lot of has a lot of functions compared to the one on the right side of the screen. Another one is the means of transportation. On the right side, on your right side, that's the old school school bus that runs on gasoline or on diesel. But on the other picture shows uh, an updated version, okay, which is what you usually call a hybrid version, which doesn't run on gasoline or petrol, but uses electricity to run. Okay, I assume in the first world countries you have this kind of buses, okay, but in the Philippines we still use the yellow bus on the other side of your screen. Okay, we're still on petrol, but for the first world countries in Europe, perhaps you already have the electric type of buses already plying the main roads of your city. Why am I showing you these pictures? Because change is always constant. That is consistent. Okay? Change is consistent. It's always constant. Okay? For us, for a company, for an organization, okay, to not just to survive, but to thrive. Okay? Again, for any secular organization or company, in order for them not just to survive, but to thrive, they need to adapt with change. Okay? If not, okay, they'll be insignificant. Okay? They need to adapt to change. That's why fashion brands like Lacoste or any brand of clothing that they need to adapt with the certain trends of fashion. Every year, okay, there's always a new trend of fashion, and they need to adapt to this change. Second, telephone companies should also adapt to change. Okay, from that seemingly okay, eye shaver type of telephones to the small versions of phones like this, which can have multiple functions. Take a photo, video. Okay, you can already access your internet. Okay, they need to adapt to change. Even the speed of internet from 3G to 5G. In the Philippines, we're just about to be introduced to 5G, but I assume in Europe or perhaps some parts in Africa, they have already 5G okay, level of internet speed. And even in the auto industry, okay, nowadays, because of global change, especially in climate change, they need to adopt. Okay, Toyota's already introduced their hybrid car okay, here in Asia. Okay, from petrol, now it's already really runs on electricity. Okay, they need to change. They need to adopt because if not, as I've said, companies will become insignificant. Okay, just like one big company before during our days, Kodak. When I say the name Kodak, the first thing that comes to mind is not food, but the film or that disposable camera. Okay? Kodak is a big time, multi-billion company before, but because they weren't able to adapt to change, it's really unheard of. It went bankrupt. And even up to now, okay, when you ask your grandchildren the name Kodak, it doesn't ring a bell because they become insignificant. Same thing, brothers and sisters. We need to be insignificant. The same thing that also includes the Catholic Church. Okay? The church and any religious organization should always adapt to change for them to be significant. The pastoral constitution on the church in the modern world, particularly the document Gaudium et Spes or Joys and Hopes, is a Second Vatican Council document. Okay, Vatican Council happened in the mid 60s towards the latter part of 1960s. Okay, and the church fathers, those people who were part of the Vatican of that council, said yes. The church has always had the duty of scrutinizing the signs of the times. Imagine the church in the 1960s are already exhorting everyone to always be sensitive and scrutinize the signs of the times. Signs of the times refer to the changes happening around us. Cultural change, landscape, okay, trends. This is what scrutinizing the signs of the times is all about. And it's already been exhorted by our church fathers, okay, even in the 1960s. So how can CFC thrive? I'm not saying how can CFC survive, because survival is just about status quo. I'm asking how can CFC thrive, not survive? We can only thrive, brothers and sisters, if we become significant. If we try ourselves to adapt to change. We need to read the signs of times. We need to scrutinize the things happening around us. We need to be sensitive to the things happening in us and the people that we are with. How can we truly read the signs of times? When we become sensitive to the changes in behavior of people. When we become sensitive to the ways of thinking, what are the mindset of people? The mindset of the people in Africa is totally different from the mindset of the people living in Europe. They are different, and it is continuously changing. Means of communication, language is changing. In the 1970s, perhaps you've been using tolits or repapip. Okay, these are the language or the lingo in the 1970s, and you have used that. But when I say repapip right now, people can't understand what I'm saying because language continuously change. And we need, for CFC to thrive, we need to be sensitive in the signs of the times. And in order for us to read the signs of the times, these are expressions, okay, of reading the signs of the times. There are two ways, there are two expressions in CFC for us to read the signs of the times. First, okay, just like what St. John Paul II said, no believer in Christ, no institution of the church can avoid the supreme duty to proclaim Christ to all people. And what is the first expression? It's relevance. Okay, relevance. Okay, in order for us, okay, to proclaim Christ to all people, CFC's expression of evangelization, of proclaiming Christ to all people, is the Christian Life Program. That's the premier banner of program for evangelization of Couples for Christ, among other programs. Relevance acknowledges another person. When we talk to people, we acknowledge that the person we're talking to is a different person from us. For Brother Rico, it's another person. If he talks to an African, he acknowledges that he's with an African, not a Filipino. When you are talking to a Caucasian in Europe, you acknowledge that the person you're talking to is a Caucasian European, not a Filipino-blooded person. That's relevance. Acknowledging another person. Just like 3M and the story of Scotch masking tape. There was an engineer in 1921 who joined 3M company. His name is Richard Drew. And his job was to find new products, to discover new products. One day, he went to auto shops, okay, and he found out that the people who are trying to paint, okay, automobiles, okay, during that time, the two-tone color scheme is being introduced, or is being introduced to the market. That means one part of the car can be blue, another part can be white. Now they're having a hard time on how to blend the two colors. So usually the painters, what do they usually do? After painting one color, and if they're about to paint to spray the next color, they usually cover the newly painted part of the car with glue and newspaper. The problem is when they take out the newspaper, it's messy because of the glue. So this engineer did was to combine glycerin, that's plastic, glue, and paper. And that's the start of the Scotch tape. Because of the need of the painters, engineer Richard Drew invented Scotch tape. And you know, even up to now, Scotch tape is a very relevant, and it's a very useful product in our life. And the masking tape was really uh, a relevant product. Relevance is persons or groups of people are different from each other. That's what I've said. When we acknowledge, we say that this person is different from me in terms of behavior, in terms of background, in terms of thinking. And just like what Pope Francis said, I prefer a church which is bruised, hurting, and dirty because it has been out on the streets, rather than a church which is unhealthy from being confined and from clinging to its own security. I do not want a church concerned with being at the center and which ends by being caught up in a web of obsessions and procedures. Relevance starts by encountering and acknowledging another person. That's the first word. Second word is continuity. Continuity, just like what John Paul II did, he established and started the Word Youth Day. Why? Because he wants to sing and laugh with the young people. That's his ultimate goal. Okay, for them, okay, for him to allow the young people to stay in the church, to be formed and nourished by the church, and in that way, the church will pass on the mission of Christ, give it to the church, to the young people, to the next generation. In the context of Corpus Christ, CFC's goal is to proclaim the gospel and to invite people to community. The primary goal is to proclaim the gospel. After that, we invite them to be part of community. When we proclaim, we form. Okay, when you proclaim the good news to families, form families, and in that way, when they stay in Corpus Christ, then we pass on the vision and mission of Corpus Christ to the next generation. And with that, we are assured of Corpus Christ's relevant existence in future generations. When we evangelize, brothers and sisters, in a relevant way, people stay and listen. If we evangelize in a relevant way, people don't just pass on, will just pass by or pass through our programs, but they will stay. They will sit and they will listen because the things that we're saying are relevant. When we evangelize, because of the mindset of continuity that we want to pass on the mission to the next generation, then we allow people to participate, to collaborate, and to share with us, with our mission. Okay, now those are the two principles that that we have used in the CLP version 2.0. Now, allow me to give you an overview of the CLP training manual, brothers and sisters. Okay, PowerPoint, please. Okay, what will give you this evening are highlights of the things that were updated in the CLP training manual. That means that we are now about to use a revised CLP training manual. Okay, the schedule for the CLP training is still a whole day event. The content of which has 2 talks. Next slide, please. And 5 workshops. Okay, 2 talks and 5 workshops. Next slide, please. The previous, the old version of the CLP training only contains 3 talks. The first talk is what we call, is entitled Evangelism and Spiritual Warfare. Next slide, please. The words that you are seeing right now flash on your screen are lines in a particular song in the Glory Song book entitled By the Blood of the Lamb. In a secular fashion, okay, when we have problems or warfare in the secular world, we always find, we try to search for material or tangible means. In the visible world, for example, if we have a financial problem or a financial warfare, we need to look for means to earn money, and in that way solve solve our financial problem or battle with the financial warfare. If we have a health problem or health warfare, we need to look and buy the best medicines or consult the best doctor. Okay, in that way, we solve and we battle the health warfare. But in a spiritual warfare where we are in, okay, spiritual preparation is the best way for us to battle with the spiritual warfare. And what is the spiritual preparation? It's through prayer, fasting, and the sacraments. Okay, next slide, please. Evil is real, brothers and sisters. The evil one tries to whisper to our ears, telling us he is not real, that he's just a fiction, an imagination, a creation of our mind. But actually, he is real. There are Americans who do not believe in that Satan is real, that evil is real. More so among these figures, there are Catholic Americans who also believe that evil is not real. The enemy is wise, he's cunning, he's very strategic. He shows something evil as tempting, as good, as tasty, interesting. Okay? Good and evil before is easily distinguishable, but nowadays it's hard to distinguish between what is bad and what is good. More so with the introduction of the internet, where the entire world becomes a global village. You can easily communicate, send messages to one another. But through the internet, the gospel is just one among millions of messages that we can download. The gospel is battling with Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, okay? And with your emails as well. So what's happening? Because of all of these things, the gospel values are fastly eroding. So what is the whole point, brothers and sisters? We need to be spiritually and emotionally prepared. Evangelism is a spiritual battle. And if evangelization is a spiritual battle, and in the context of Couples for Christ, the CLP or the Christian Life Program is an expression of evangelization, then the CLP is also a spiritual battle. That ends the first talk of our training for tonight. I'll be handing over the spotlight now to our moderator, and we'll see you again after this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ruel. Thank you, Brother Ruel, for allowing us to discussing those things to us. Just a couple of things to remind everyone here. Allow me to summarize this thing in 2 points. First one, it's relevance and continuity. In the pursuit, the two principles that were discussed earlier, in our pursuit to evangelize more, we have to be these two things, to be relevant, to allow ourselves to take root on what's happening in the world, and to develop the relevance that we have, and continuity, to make sure that everything will take on and take off and continue. It's the Queer Well has given a lot of companies early on that were not able to read the signs of the times and failed to catch up to what's happening. And at the same time, that's why we're trying to develop this training. Second, we have to remember that the CFC CLP, the Christian Life Program, is a major spiritual battle. We might have forgotten that, or I believe that we need to always remember that. Why? It's because we know that the spirits are real, that the evil is real, but at the same time, God's grace is real, God is real, the Spirit is real. So at this point, my dear brothers and sisters, we will be having a very, very, very short break, probably just in 1 minute or in a minute or two, and then we'll continue on with the next part of our training. Please